Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. In this video, we will be discussing on all the important questions and the previous year question papers of MMPC 3, that is business environment. Okay, the third exam in the upcoming term and examination scheduled for December 2022. Okay, so without much ado, let's get started. We will be quickly revising, we will quickly go through all around. I have collected questions from around 6 years, 6 to 7 years question papers. Okay, we will read the question and quickly discuss on what all important things or important points that you should include while writing the answer for each of those questions. Okay, so the first question is, describe the nature and scope of business environment. This is the first thing that you study when you start studying business environment. Okay. Now, the next part is, how does external environment influence the performance of an organization? Again, it is asking to discuss this concept with the help of suitable examples. I have said before also in MMPC 1 and 2 as well, while we are discussing the question papers, IGNOU term and examination, the pattern is for theory papers. They will ask you to write about a topic along with examples. Even if they did not ask, please do write examples. Organize your answers into proper paragraphs, giving headings, and underline if possible the important keywords of each of those. Okay, to help your invigilators give you marks. Okay, do not give them a reason to cut short your marks, then you surely get good grades in your term and examination. There is nothing to worry about. Write down what you understand. Okay, your understanding of the concept is what they are looking out for. Okay, so what is the nature of a business environment? It is dynamic, it is uncertain, it is very complex, right? It is relative and interrelated. What is the scope of it? Well, scope is all the internal and external, macro, micro, controllable, uncontrollable, specific, general, all those things, right? So business environment, you can say, is the aggregate of all the conditions, the events and influences that surround as well as affect a business. So how does external environment influence the performance? Well, what are the things in external environment? There could be micro environment, that is your suppliers, customers, marketing intermediaries, all those things, right? So if you think of it, there is the business. So inside this, it is the value system, the mission, vision, organizations, structure, the culture, the people who are working over there, their interrelations, the physical resources, the financial capabilities, everything come under the internal environment. Externally, when you talk about it, there is a closed circle which closely surrounds the business, that includes your suppliers, your customers, your marketing intermediaries and all, who will have a very direct or much more influence on your organization, right? If your customers are not happy, if you don't get enough quality suppliers, or if your marketing intermediaries are not very helpful, it will affect a lot. And opposite, if you have very good customer relations, or if you have found out very good suppliers who can give you good quality things, it will impact you in a good way, right? Then comes the macro environment, which is a much more broader environment, you can say, and it affects all the organizations almost in the same way. That is the general impact. Okay, and it is very much uncontrollable as well, like the political legal environment or the entire technological capabilities of the era, the global environment, natural environment, like if there is an earthquake or a tsunami hitting, or even the COVID-19. These are things part of the macro environment which you cannot control, right? The demographics, the socio-cultural environment, the economic environment, all those things. So external environment is the environment outside the business and how it could impact your performance. That is what you need to write down with examples as you understand. If you are someone who is working, quote examples from your own experience, or quote examples of how you understand from any newspaper clippings or any recent news that you have heard, or even from any movies also. If you have understood something, you can describe that situation as the example, but it should be apt. Okay, so all they want is an example, that's it, a right example. Okay, so the next question is, what do you understand by the term business ethics, and discuss the importance of ethics for businesses, again citing examples. So, ethics is not something new to us. We have been studying about ethics in almost all the subjects. You can borrow your understanding of business ethics from even MMPC 7 or 1 to all these things. Everywhere, business ethics is a common concept which comes up. Okay, so uh, you can go through it and you can write accordingly about what you understand by this. Okay, the third one is, what are the major functions of Reserve Bank of India? Discuss in detail. So this is an important question. It has been coming up, so you should know at least something about the Reserve Bank of India. It could come as a short note question as well, rather than a essay question. So this is one important area which you should make sure that you study. Okay. So, what is the Reserve Bank of India? RBI, it is the apex bank, right? It is the first prime bank. It formulates and regulates the monetary policy, and it ensures that it is the controlling authority for all the other banks in the nation, right? So, two types of monetary policy is formulated by RBI, that is quantitative and qualitative. Quantitative is like the cash reserve ratio, repo and reverse repo rate, bank rate, and all. Okay, it is for controlling the quantum, that is the amount of credit that is circulating in our market. Qualitative instruments are like moral action, direct action, all those things. Okay, they are used to direct or prohibit the cash flow to certain sectors. Some of the major functions of our RBI include: it is the notice issuing authority, it is the banker to the banks, it is the government's banker as well as debt manager, it is the banking sector regulator, it is the foreign exchange manager, it is the organization or authority responsible for maintaining the financial stability of our nation, right? It has a developmental role, therefore, and it is act as a regulator of the monetary policy as well. So those are some of the things you can write about RBI. Okay, so the fourth question has two parts. The first part asks about the key players in the agricultural sector, and the second part is asking us to discuss on the role and importance of agricultural marketing. So the key players in the agricultural sector include the middlemen, okay? The merchant middlemen, the speculative middlemen, the agent middlemen, the processor middlemen, facilitative middlemen, all those different people, right? And what is agricultural marketing? Agricultural marketing is focused on the resource optimization, the farm income increase, market widening for agricultural products and associated things, right? The growth of agri industry as well, price signaling, spread of technology into the agricultural sector, employment creation, addition to national income, and improved living for the people involved. All those things are what comes under the role and importance of agricultural marketing. Now, the next question is, discuss on the major recommendations of Narasimham Committee on Banking Sector Reform. So, this again, there were two Narasimham committees, and both of them are described in our textbook as well. So uh, it kind of like is important. It has been seen to be asked on and off, so there is a chance that it could come up repeatedly. But if you think that it is a bit tough for you to remember all these committees and all the reforms they've brought in, I can understand, but let us try once. Okay, so the major recommendations that were put forth by Narasimham Committee is that mainly for the reorganization of the banking sector. Like, for example, three or four large public sector banks like our SBI and all, they suggested to become international. Then the committee recognized around 8 to 10 banks as national. RBI was, according to the committee's proposals, RBI was to permit establishment of new private sector banks on adherence to a minimum capital rule. Okay, foreign banks Accordingly, foreign banks were allowed to set up branches in India. That is the reason why right now we have ban- branches of like Douche Bank or Bank of Bahrain and Kuwait and all those city banks. All those things are right now here, right? We have their branches. So the reason why now we have them is because of the Narasimham committee's proposals. Okay, removal of dual control, interest rate determination. It provided more freedom to banks. Okay, and it allowed banks to issue bonds as well. Banks can conduct campus recruitment. So earlier it was tough for banks to get enough employees, qualified people to run their operations. So after the Narasimham committee proposal only, they allowed banks to conduct campus recruitments, and that is one of the reasons why a lot of people, even in our families also, right, even after doing BTech and all, now people are going to for bank coaching, and they're actually getting into banks as probationary officers and all, right? So depending upon whatever degree they have done and depending upon the type of exam they have written, the reason why that has come up is because of this Narasimham committee reforms. Okay, so that is some of the major recommendations of our Narasimham committee. Now, the next question, discuss the rationale behind economic reforms that were introduced in 1991. So this is a very important thing, right? LPG 1991 economic reforms. We all know, we have been studying about it from our school days onwards, right? So this is just a quick refresher on that. That's it. So what were some of the important things? To abolish the license raj, worker cooperative, reduction of import duties, encourage foreign investment, and all those things. And it was all done to bring India out of the financial crisis that was then prevalent, and it was brought forth uh, from according to the directives and all of World Trade Organization and World Bank and all, and it was drafted and put forth by our then Finance Minister Manmohan Singh. It is a widely known thing, right? So that is the economic reforms. Now, what next question? What are the principal means of trade financing? Explain in detail. So, what is trade financing and what are the means of trade financing? So, trade financing is actually financing for foreign trade, right? Exports or imports, both. Okay. So, some of the things involved is like cash in advance, documentary credit, like it could be revocable, irrevocable, confirmed, unconfirmed, transferable, all these things. Okay. Or even drafts like side draft, time draft, clean draft, documentary draft, consignment, open account, all these things. Okay, and our textbook actually goes into explaining each of those different forms of trade financing or these different means of trade financing, right? And additionally we can have advance payments, letter of credits, bills for collection, all these things. Okay, so it is a good idea that you go and read and understand what each of these instruments of trade financing is, because at times we have found that they would take and ask to describe the different types of documentary credits, or what is the difference between a side draft and a clean draft, like that. There have been instances where it has been asked, so it is a good idea. If you have not gone through it in detail, I would suggest please go through in detail trade financing. Okay, so the next question, write short notes on all of these. Okay, first is balance of payment and balance of trade, balance BOP and BOT. So what is balance of payment? Balance of payment for a country, it can be defined as a systematic record of all the transactions that happen between economic units of one country as in the rest of the world, okay, at any given period of time. So all the transactional records which are made among individuals, corporates, government, all those things come under this, and it helps in keeping the flow of funds in track to develop the economy as a whole. So BOP actually reflects the financial as well as the economic status of a country. It can indicate if the country's currency's value is appreciating or depreciating. It helps the governments make decisions on fiscal and trade policies, provides vital insights into economic dealings of a country, with the rest of the world and all sorts of things. So there are mainly two components of balance of payment. First is the current account, okay, and the next one is the capital account. So the basic accounting rule or the BOP accounting rule is that all transactions that lead to a net receipt of foreign exchange creates a credit, that is a surplus in the corresponding account, whereas all transactions that lead to a net payment to foreign countries create a debit, that is deficit in the corresponding account. And it makes sense, right? If we get foreign currency, it is a surplus, it is a credit. If we have to give it, it is a debit, it is a deficit, right? And if a country's inflow of foreign exchange, that is if the country is getting more foreign exchange, it exceeds the outflow, it is, that means we are getting more foreign exchange than we are having to spend, then it is to be a very favorable BOP, that is BOP surplus. And according to what the recent trends are, actually right now India is going for a BOP surplus, that is India is getting more foreign investments, foreign currency than what India is having to give out, okay. So if a currency's inflow of forex is actually less than outflow, then we will say that it is a unfavorable BOP, that is BOP deficit. But it doesn't mean that the BOP surplus doesn't mean that we are doing extremely well, or BOP deficit doesn't mean that we are going in a bad way, because there are multiple other factors that lead to this BOP surplus or deficit, okay. So just by looking at the BOP, we cannot say whether the country is doing good or bad, okay. So some of the factors, again, the factors affecting BOP include the current account and capital account, like the inflation rate, economic liberty, changes in the policies or exchange rates, all those sorts of things you can write. And balance of trade is actually a major part of the transactions in the current account of BOP. So as we said, BOP has two accounts, right? The current account and capital account. Balance of trade comes under the current account part of it, and it actually talks about the net exports, okay. So like if exports are greater than imports, then we'll have a positive balance of trade, and it will result in a BOP, that is balance of payments surplus. And if export is greater than if export is lesser than imports, then we'll have a negative BOT, that is it might lead to a deficit in our BOP. So that is BOP and BOT. Then the next one is biotechnology. So biotechnology, what is it? The pharma, the surgery, the medicine, biofactories, hybrid crops, genetic engineering, everything is biotechnology. You can write any of it, okay, and or all of it, whatever you know about grafting, tissue culture, high yielding variety of crops, hybrid crops, then the new medicines, advancements in our medical technology, genetics, DNA, cloning, all sorts of things, genetic engineering, everything you can write, okay. Next one is functions of International Monetary Fund, IMF. So what is IMF? IMF is an international organization, right, that aims to reduce global poverty, encourage international trade, promote financial stability and economic growth and all. There are around 190 countries who are members of IMF, and the representation in IMF is actually based on the financial positioning. That is, who stronger countries with stronger financials will have more power than the weaker ones, okay. The main reason of setting up this IMF was to first oversee economic activities or economies of its member countries, lend to countries with balance of payment issues, help member countries modernize economies by providing any kind of a technical assistance in areas such as their fiscal policies, monetary and exchange rate policy, banking and finance service, supervision, regulation, statistics, all sorts of things. Okay, so that is IMF. Next is American Depository Receipts or ADR. So this ADR is actually a negotiable certificate which is issued by the US banks representing a specified number of shares of some non-US company, okay, which is being traded in the US exchange. So they are measured in US dollars and transacted in the US stock market similar to stocks of any other US company. Okay, so what is ADR? It is basically a certificate. Who issues this certificate? A US bank, and on behalf of some non-US company. So some non-US companies, on behalf of some non-US company, when a US bank issues certificates which correspond to some said number of shares of this company, which is a non-US company, and then that certificate is being traded in the US share market just like any other US company, then it is an ADR. Okay, so since it is getting traded in the US stock market, it is measured in US dollars. Okay, and ADRs are therefore listed in New York Stock Exchange, Amex, Nasdaq, all those things. Okay, there are three types of ADRs: level 1, level 2, and level 3. Okay, level 1 is kind of like an over the counter trading. Level 2 is required for annual reports. So if it is a level 2 ADR, then you have to show it in your annual reports. Level 1 is not required. And level 3 is again traded in the US stock exchange. So those are the ADRs. So we have much more questions to discuss. We will do it in parts. I'm winding up this part for now. The rest of the questions I will upload it as a new video. Alright, so all the best, study well and write well. May you all be able to write well in your exams and get good marks.